my oldest son, Dan, is getting bar mitzvahed this very weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Let's flash forward to when he gets out of college. What does this scene look like? What does it look like when he gets out of college?
Deal?
Yeah, everything. What does the landscape look like, do you think? Crystal ball.
You have 4 major conferences.
Okay.
Look, if this deal goes forward, and they haven't worked out all the scheduling, but the plan they have for scheduling that they're trying to figure out is to have each school play. If you're North Carolina, you will also play one team from the Big Ten, one team from the Pac-12 every year. If you're Michigan, you play an ACC and a Pac-12 team every year. And you would basically now start playing 10 conference games, and that's what you would do. So it takes a long time to get to that because they have these schedules planned out 5-6 years in advance, and no one wants to break contracts and all of that. But I would say if this thing holds, and it could, it's because that's a good scheduling deal for these leagues. You'd be playing more high quality games, which I think fans would actually like, about 10 games a year. The SEC would probably have to play 10 games amongst itself because they would be starved out of a lot of non-conference games. Other than the real rivalry games that would stay, Georgia Tech, Georgia, Florida State, Florida, Louisville and Kentucky, and Clemson and South Carolina. And Alabama would say, well, who are we going to play? The Big Ten won't play us, the Pac-12 won't play us, the ACC won't play us. You basically got Notre Dame and, a couple others. So they might have to go to 10 teams. I actually think you'll have more good games, more big television games and all of that, but you'll basically have 4 leagues. The Big 12 teams will step back some and be that upstart, the remaining Big 12 teams. And I think you'll have a 12-team playoff. So it's not like this is going to significantly alter what's going on. They're just trying whatever they can. And now here's the other part. This is a handshake agreement. In college sports, mind you. College sports, if your son, let's put it this way, if your son becomes a cross-country runner,
yes, sir,
that could go to the local college, they will make him sign a binding letter of intent because they do not trust him to leave them, right? They will have all sorts of documents you have to sign. If you're the lowest athlete in the entire athletic department, yet we're to believe that 41 schools just are going to work this together as a gentleman's agreement. So this is more likely blows up than not. But if it goes, I mean, there are a whole lot of options for these leagues. And so I think you'll have a 4 major leagues, 12-team playoff. It'll be fine. No matter how much they mismanage this thing, college football and to a lesser degree college basketball is so good, it can't be screwed up.
See, here's what I think it is, Dan, and you tell me how far off I am. You could rate it on 1 to 10 about how accurate this might actually be. I think Greg Sankey, who's been on this show a couple times, the SEC commissioner, is a really smart fella. I think he is really smart, really savvy, and terrific at his job. I think he sees what's going on with Mark Emmert. I think he sees what's going on with the NIL, name, image, and likeness. I think he sees what's going on with the Supreme Court. The writing is on the wall. It is in neon letters that it's open for business. Oklahoma and Texas is now in Greg Sankey's fold. He is trying to, maybe with, as you pointed out at the beginning of this conversation with my former place of business, the worldwide leader in sports, ready to roll with an idea that he winds up running the entire athletic world and that everybody gets together at some point. Certainly if the leverage that you just said that this historic alliance might have by saying, okay, enjoy. I know it just means more to y'all down there in the southeast part of the United States and the Gulf South, but guess what? Enjoy, keep playing each other. That whole USC, Alabama kickoff and Jerry World, see ya. That ain't happening. So at some point, there might be some leverage point from the historic alliance, and everyone comes together. And not only do they have a huge consortium of schools and academia that Sankey's in charge of, and that ESPN essentially mostly televises, but on top of it, they've got themselves an NCAA basketball tournament to run and turn the current bracket into the NIT, and they run the entire world collegiately. That's the way I'm sort of seeing this. Maybe I'm jaded, but this is the way I'm viewing it, Dan. Your thoughts?
Well, they would need all the leagues to come together because they can't get the TV number they need.
Yes.
Especially if college football fans elsewhere take a opposition stance. We know how our country is now. Everyone's it's not just rooting for your team; it's hating the other team. And people don't watch the SEC out of some kind of pride, and those are your hardest core fans, the most reliable TV viewers. So they have to, and they just don't have the population centers as much as they've expanded in Texas. You know, and in the Northeast, it's still fledgling ratings. You know, in the Northeast, fledgling ratings out in California. Well, you still need those to have big numbers.
Yes.
The problem with the basketball tournament is very profitable, but that basketball tournament succeeds because it's a brilliantly set up. The construct is perfect. The first weekend is about the upsets.
Yes, it is.
And the Cinderellas. That's what draws people in.
You could still have them, is what I'm saying. You could still have them. You know, like
they'll take any scrap you get. Yes,
you can still have them.
They'll take any. Abilene Christian will show up if you invite them. Yeah. And you have to have that. You know, can you replace the NCAA? You can, but you kind of, at this point, the NCAA is completely neutered.
That's what I'm saying. Sankey sees a void. He sees a void, and you know, it's going to take some time, but there's a world to dominate, and the first dominoes were Texas and Oklahoma. So that's the way I'm kind of viewing it. But
the NCAA is fairly harmless at this point. They don't really take much money from anybody. They give it all back to the schools. And you still need someone to run the tournament, and you still need somebody to keep the trains running on time. And with name, image, and likeness, there's no more enforcement because it's impossible to decipher. It would take 1,000 forensic accountants to figure out whether a booster actually gave money because he wanted. Just the money's there.
Yes.
So there really isn't a whole lot the NCAA is going to do in the future that's going to anger anybody. It's really just it's not even that big of a building in Indianapolis. There's a few hundred people working in there doing a lot of what they do is very well done, right? The basketball tournaments generally run well, but you got to have somebody running your field hockey tournament, all those things. So I'm always skeptical of replacing the NCAA because it's like you have to then create another NCAA. At this point, the NCAA has almost no power. You're sharing scraps with Division III schools and things like that.
This is why I'm saying
no
so.
No question, this consolidates power, and Greg Sankey is playing chess, and they're all looking long term. That's why everyone was like, "Well, this announcement is stupid, and nothing changed today." It's like, yeah, that's not what this is about. It's a long term plan to try to support the other long term plan, but nobody's quite sure what their plans are.
So my theory is more closer to possible rather than tinfoil hat, right?
It's definitely possible. 100%. I just don't know how you do it.
There's time.
But there's no tinfoil hats anymore, man. Anything's possible.
Well, tinfoil hat brought to you by Reynolds Wrap.
There you go. Then I will take a college. I mean, we basically had a 41-team conference get created. I mean, there's only 32 teams in the whole NFL.
Thanks.
So, there are no tinfoils anymore. Everything's possible. It's just like, where is this going to land? The problem you have,
yes.
No one is in charge of this sport. Nobody. You go show up and say, who's in charge? And they point to 10 different guys.
Well, I would say Greg Sankey's in charge. He's
probably in charge, yeah.
That's what I'm saying right now. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.